I want to have a fact-based discussion about how to restore public trust and confidence in California elections. Facts. Facts matter. And that is why I'm having a report passed out to you from the Transparency Foundation, an audit of California's 2022 election. And I will be citing facts and evidence presented in that audit to really justify the common sense reforms that are contained in this Assembly Bill proposal. Assembly Bill 25 deals with a growing cancer on the democracy here in California. We have the lowest level of public trust and confidence in our elections that we have ever seen. All the polling shows that. And that is something that Democrats and Republicans should see as a democracy issue, not a partisan issue. I don't want Democrats to say that the election was stolen in 2016 by Russian hackers and have voters on the Democrat side feel that they were disenfranchised. At the same time, I don't want Republican voters in 2020 to be told the election was stolen through a number of mechanisms and not have public trust and confidence. It serves no good purpose. Frankly, it is designed to divide us and weaken our democracy. Assembly Bill 25 would bring California in line with 28 other states that require voter ID. And as you know, just this past week, the voters in Wisconsin approved a voter ID requirement. There are 6 problems currently with California's voting system. First, we lack proper review of citizenship eligibility when registering individuals to vote. Frankly, your own staff report reflects that. I read with some amusement the report that said, well, we don't know how to verify citizenship of individuals. That's the point. That's the point behind Assembly Bill 25, to require a citizenship verification with a government document. Second, we do not properly maintain our voter lists in California. The evidence of that is overwhelming. Our constituents know that because about 10% of our constituents receive what we call orphan ballots. Orphan ballots are mailed out to a person who no longer lives at a residence. Maybe they moved, maybe they were a college student, maybe they were the previous occupant, or maybe someone receives a ballot for someone and they just don't know who the ballot's for. You can ask any postal worker during elections, how many ballots do you receive that are rejected because the person doesn't live at that address? We're talking about bins and bins of orphan ballots. I would draw your attention to the Transparency Foundation's report on page 13, which identified an erroneous ballot rate of 9.2% on our state voter rolls. Third, we have switched to universal mail-in ballots using those outdated voter lists. Nothing in my bill changes the convenience of mail-in ballots. It is clear that Californians enjoy vote by mail. And it is a process, a voting option that I too support. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories around vote by mail that are unfounded. And I believe that having a voter ID requirement that would also apply to vote by mail would help settle some of those corrosive allegations that, again, I believe are unfounded. Fourth, we allow for ballot harvesting. Unlike any other state, we have changed the rules so that strangers can come into possession of an individual's ballot, handle it, and return it. The chain of custody has been broken. We do have chain of custody requirements for vote by mail. Postal clerks are subjected to stronger oversight for the return of ballots in the chain of custody than the individuals that this legislature has wrongfully empowered to harvest ballots from voters during election time. Fifth, we have inadequate signature reviews. I would draw your attention to page 21, which shows a an appalling disparity between between counties in California. For example, in the audit, Sacramento County rejected 0.23% of ballots because the signature didn't match. 0.23%. San Joaquin County rejected 2.56% of ballots. Now, are we to somehow believe that Sacramento voters have better penmanship? That San Joaquin County voters have worse penmanship? Or are we to conclude that signature review regulations are inadequately or unevenly, at least, implemented in the state, meaning that we can't verify the identity of an individual? We need to improve identity verification for the return of ballots. And then finally, the sixth issue, and I know that some of my colleagues on the other side of the political aisle have expressed concern about this, and that is the amount of time it takes to count ballots in this state. Most third world countries can get their election results by midnight on election day. We take 30 days to count our ballots. And some races, the lead in those races shifts dramatically. I'm not suggesting that anything illegal is happening, but I do suggest that by having the process drag on, that we are laying the seeds or allowing for conspiracy theories and unfounded allegations to be made against election officers across the state. We have to do a better job of the timely counting of our ballots. How does AB 25 address these issues? Well, first, we would require citizenship verification for anyone who registers to vote in the state of California, and it is quite simple to do. Second, in returning any ballot, whether it's voting in person or, as 95% of citizens do today, voters do today, voting by mail, they would have to use a government-issued identification in order to vote. It's simply the last four digits of whatever government-issued document they have chosen to use for their citizenship on the outside of their mail-in ballot. We would also require proper list maintenance. We would do this by having oversight. We would have the auditor randomly sample the voter registration list of each county, and if it is not properly maintained, we would admonish the county to do a better job, but we would also then say you can't use that same outdated list to mail out ballots. Third, we would require the timely counting of ballots within 72 hours of an election. I'm open to amendments, perhaps, to extend that. The penalty would be that if you can't count your ballots on time and properly manage the intake of your ballots, then we wouldn't do universal mail-in ballots for the very next election for that county. We know that the mail-in ballots are the real driver of the lengthy counting times on our ballots. And finally, we would continue to look at the signature review process and verification of identity by having a random audit of the signature review process of each county for again, best practice comparison and oversight. This is not a partisan issue. The polling shows that Democrats support voter ID. In fact, 52% of Democrats, according to Public Opinion Strategies in January of 2025, said they support voter ID. A supermajority of independents and Republicans do. 68% of overall California voters support voter ID. 79% of overall California voters support citizenship verification. And before people make the false and divisive and toxic claim that somehow it's racist to do voter ID, well, you might as well tell African-American Californians that, because 56% of African-American Californians in the Public Opinion Survey show that they support voter ID. 70% of non-white Californians also support voter ID. This is an issue, an idea whose time has come in California. Let's show all Californians that this is not a partisan issue, that we want to restore public trust and confidence. The way to do that is by implementing a voter ID requirement for our state. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Halloran.
No.
Halloran, no. Macedo.
Aye.
Macedo, aye. Bennett. Berman.
No.
Berman, no. Salache. Stephanie.
No.
Stephanie, no. Tongapa.
Aye.
Tongapa, aye.
It's 2 votes yes and 3 votes no.